TIFU I cried in the red light district. A few buddies and I are traveling in Thailand and we went to the local red light district last night. I have never paid for cheesecake, but my buddies really wanted to see this district after reading about it online. We ambled down the main avenue after exiting the SkyTrain station, and turned on our handy mobile guide for the night. As our blue dot on the Google Map app inched closer to our final destination, we saw hotels catering to business travelers, tourists, and lovers that charged by the hour. Promising. Closer still, we passed street vendors selling various configurations of lingerie and butternut toys. I was semi-erect. At the corner of fake Cialis and condoms, we made a turn into a little side street off the main avenue and entered the promised land. I basked in the glow of neon lights and savored every sensation the promised land offered. The indistinct drum of club music, old white men with weathered skin in shorts getting cozy with street walkers in impossibly high heels, faceless ladies grabbing my arm enticing me to go into their bars. I was a kid in a candy store. We ended up in a 3 or 4 story plaza that seemed tame on the ground level. But as we headed up the second level, things got spicy, to say the least. I finally ended up chatting with a lady in leather lingerie holding an authoritative whip in her hand. She ordered me to go into the bar, and she didn't take no for an answer. It didn't help that I was totally turned on, and my buddies literally pushed me inside when they realized I was trapped by a dominatrix hottie. After a few drinks and polite conversation, my leather-clad friend encouraged me to take a room upstairs. I didn't have the courage to say yes. Even the buzz of alcohol didn't calm my nerves. But my friends wouldn't stop badgering me to take her upstairs, and finally under pressure I caved. I sat on the edge of the mattress, naked. I tried to engage her in more conversation, but she just ordered me to shut up and started lashing me. I was a nervous wreck and I didn't know what to do. My zucchini had left me at the door. All I felt in the strangely quiet room upstairs was shame, sadness for the lady whipping me, and the rhythmic sting of faux leather tickling my skin. I don't know how long this had gone on, maybe a minute, maybe more. Time flowed at a different pace. As I pondered my escape and the tragedy that brought this lady to this desperate place, I felt moisture on my thigh. I looked up to see if there was a leak in the ceiling, only to realize the drops were my tears. I was crying, but not because I was into cheesecake humiliation. Unfortunately, she thought I was, and my tears only encouraged her to whip harder. When I pushed her whip away, I brushed past the banana of her mini lingerie and realized I was dealing with a lady boy. I tried harder. He must have thought I was deep into pleasure from the humiliation because she just laughed more. I was a naked, sobbing mess of a man. She asked me, "What's wrong, honey?" in that mocking way. But it wasn't funny or sexy. She bent over, looked between my legs, and asked in that grating voice, "You know hard?" I got banana, honey, extra baht. I quickly put on my shorts and shirt, and ran out the door. She didn't try to stop me. After all, she already got paid. Last thing I remember of that place was the boom 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 of club music drowning out her fading, cackling laugh. Somehow I stumbled back to the SkyTrain station and made it back to my hotel. I was never so glad to be alone with my Chang beer. I'm sad for her/him, honestly I am. But I'm also furious. My buddies knew this was a ladyboy bar. They pushed me and ditched me. I'm angry at myself most of all for thinking I was ready to pay for banana. Turns out I'm not. If only there is a convenient way to delete memories. TL, doctor, I wasn't ready to pay for banana, but I caved into peer pressure. I ended up sad and in tears. Saddest TIFU I have ever read. Hey, I just wanted to say I'm sorry that happened to you. People are being totally unsympathetic, saying you should have seen it coming or that no damage was done. But that is false. You wanted to try something, got pushed further than you were comfortable, and were laughed at for not enjoying it. Your friends really lose respect in my mind for the way they handled this. It's understandable you feel violated and alone. People will always be assholes when someone confesses vulnerability and hurt like this, but that doesn't mean they're right. Your feelings are valid, and it's okay if it takes you a while to process through them. I don't think they're actually your buddies. At least you decided to quit halfway and didn't have real intercourse. sounds like a bad night, but you learned something about yourself, and it's something most people would consider positive. For me it isn't a moral issue, but coconut without any emotion isn't very satisfying to me, so I'm not interested. Nothing wrong with that, you sound like a compassionate person who tried something and didn't like it. Don't sweat it too much. To me the fact that you're so upset means you're probably a good guy. TIFU by stinking up the public bus. After having a meal at a coffee shop I had to take a public bus home. To get to the bus stop there is a pathway about 30 meters long. There was nobody around me, I checked, and I needed to fart badly because of my heavy meal and I have IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, which causes bloatiness. So while strolling to the bus stop I let go of this long zucchini silent fart. It's one of those that feels like releasing air from a balloon. A good 5 seconds release. I could feel it filling up my pants and I could feel the heat of it traveling down my hamstrings to my calf. Now 20 meters away from the bus stop, right immediately after my zucchini clenched shut for business, I turn and see my bus coming and there is no traffic light to slow it down. I am familiar with the bus frequency, so I had a choice. Run for it or wait another 20 minutes or so. Made a run for it. Now I didn't forget about the fart. While running I keep smacking the back of my pants hoping the fart inside would dissipate by the time I board. I made it to the bus and thought to myself, surely a fart 10 seconds ago plus all that whacking would have cleared the pants. I was wrong. It didn't hit at first because I was walking, but once I sat down I could smell the familiar smell of sulfur, rotten eggs, because of IBS, in the air slowly creeping into my nose. I start to hear the other riders exhaling forcefully out of their nostrils and I knew they all could smell it. The only thing that saved me from utter embarrassment is that it was non-peak hours and the bus only had a handful of passengers, but still there were about a dozen. I looked out the window and acted like nothing happened. TLDR, farted and saw bus coming. Ran for it thinking smell had gone but stank up the whole bus instead. Could have been worse. Could have been a shart. I have coconut in my pants 3 times in my life. IBS is a pain in the banana, pun intended. I was expecting a liquid zucchini instead of a silent fart and you didn't realize until you sat down. Relatable, but not that bad of a few all things considered. True, but I felt bad for the people who had to inhale my foul gas since the bus is air conditioned. Also super embarrassing because I was the only one who boarded at that stop, so they knew it was me. Back in the 80s I got 4 throw tickets for Midnight Oil, an Australian rock band. Before the concert we went and got Mexican food. I had a gigantic burrito. Needless to say it stewed in my guts and bubbled out right as the concert started. I'm not kidding. I had a continuous fart for more than a minute. Because of the music nobody could hear it. I figured with that many people nobody would notice who did it. Until the women behind me started screaming at the top of her fried lungs. I forgot that music is just airwaves and I was blasting the 10 rows behind me. Nearly caused a riot. It was that bad. I also have IBS and I can honestly say the farts are vile, so I know how you feel, as I have also gassed out a few public places. Thankfully I've only cheesecake myself once and it was when I was locked out of my house so no one knew. TIFU by sending my wife and daughter to the worst movie ever. This happened yesterday, and I still feel pretty bad. It's school vacation at our home and with some raging cabin fever I encouraged my wife to take my 5-year-old to go see a movie, while I stayed home with the baby and cleaned things up around the house. We took a look at our local venue, searching for Frozen 2, but alas, we were too late. However, Movie Phone listed Cats 2018 as in theaters. The poster looked like the same animation style as Secret Life of Pets, so I showed it to my wife. She questioned whether it was supposed to be the new Broadway remake, and I figured it was just a matinee showing that they were running for school vacation week, as there aren't a ton of children's movies out right now. She reluctantly agreed and decided to go. Almost 2.5 hours later I get a single text, a sad face emoji. I was confused, so I replied, "What's up?" To which I received no reply. Let me preface the next part. For the better part of a week I've been reading my wife the terrible reviews of the Cats Broadway film, because they are, by and large, some of the funniest reviews I've read for anything. When my wife and daughter came home I expected some exuberation, some excitement for having to have had the ability to go to the movies and get out of the house. What I received were the blank, dead-eyed stares that I'm sure would have rivaled a shell-shocked World War I veteran. I instantly knew what had happened. My wife went into detail about how, after 25 minutes of previews, a lovely animated kids flick didn't come up on screen. No, it was the rancid hairball that I'd been ripping on and laughing about with her for the past week. Apparently it was as confusing, boring, and awful as every review made it out to be. What's even better was that when I asked my 5-year-old how the movie was, her little brain couldn't articulate how bad it was. Laughing hysterically was not the appropriate initial response to what I'd both subjected these poor girls to. My daughter in particular was not entertained by the amount of laughter I had. Next time, I'll let them search for their own movie. TL, Doctor, thought I was sending my wife and kid to a fun animated kids film, instead sent them to a bizarro Broadway remake with horrendous reviews. Here's a screenshot of the movie. I didn't see reviews for Cats, and assumed it wasn't Cats. I've been reading reviews about the movie Cats for over a week. However, when I saw that a film called Cats was playing at the cinema, nothing in my mind thought they could be the same film. Not even when my wife, to whom I had been reading the reviews, said they might be the same. However, count yourself lucky. If you had seen the animated movie Cats, 2018, you'd have probably traumatized your young child. At least she only saw a bad movie, instead of well. Here's from the IMDb reviews of Cats 2018. This movie is like Saw but for little kids. Villain is just evil and cruel in a sick, twisted and demented way, and enjoys torturing animals. There are long drawn-out sequences where you think the main protagonist, a cute fluffy kitten, is just dead. There are no hints or cues to the young audience that he is not dead, like peeking open an eye or something while pretending to be dead. No, there are just long sequences of cruel, sad and twisted scenes with no comic relief whatsoever. Why didn't they leave, and how could you not know it was the remake? How do you read bad reviews and still send them to the same movie? Wow. I'm just scratching my head how you could be aware that there's a shit-ass movie called Cats out now, but you also thought it's possible that there's another film called Cats playing now in a theater that was different. Honestly, my dude, this makes no sense. I went home and punched my cat in the face is still the best IMDb movie review I've read to date.